Hi, I'm Laura Sherwood, the Firefly Stamper. My desire is to light up one heart at a time and to equip you to do the same. So today is the second video I've done on Eden's Garden, which is a brand new release coming out, available November the 2nd, 2021. And so the stamps I had demonstrated really more in the last video. And in this one, I'm concentrating on the designer series paper, only available during the early release starting November the 2nd. The dies and the stamps will be in the new catalog. So the card that I want to demonstrate is this card and this card. So those are the two cards, and actually I'm doing this one I think first. But I wanted to show you what a beautiful set Eden's Garden is, and to give you that sneak preview before they come out. So I'm so happy you're here, and I'm looking forward to showing you these beautiful cards. So this is the early release, Eden's Garden, and the Eden dies. I love all the selection in these stamps and how beautiful they are. The couple of the dies that we're using today, here's the rest of the dies, would be this one here for doing the border cut on the designer series paper. And the designer series paper is also part of the collection for the early release, would only be available in the early release of the Ever Eden designer series paper. And we have this lovely decorative die that I have right here that I'm using today as well in the basic white. I'm going to go over the pieces to this card, and I'll show you a couple of options on the card. So this one I gold embossed, and happy birthday to you. And that particular stamp is from the Best Year stamp set, and it's the sentiment, and that would be number 152568 if you're interested in ordering. And then with this one, I actually stamped it in the Evening Evergreen, which is what I'm going to do on this video as well. So that's the card we're making. So the pieces to this card is your basic white, and the basic white is cut as your card base. So we have 8.5 by 5.5 and then scored at 4 1/4. As well, we have a piece for the inside that is 5 1/4 by 4. And the gems that I'm using on the outside are called the Janelle gems. And there is the item code there if you're interested in that as well. I'm also using a ribbon, and this is our gold shimmer ribbon. 156470, again if you're interested in ordering, and I haven't trimmed the edges of that bow yet. I also use the scalloped contour dies, and this is the smallest die in that particular set. As well, I'm using the sentiment from Best Year stamp set, and that has a variety of sentiments, and I use those quite often. The designer series paper is cut at 5 1/4 by 4 before you die cut it, and then you die cut it with the die from the Eden dies, which I've showed here. And as well, I die cut in basic white this piece. Along with that, you'll want your stamp and seal, you'll want dimensionals, you'll want glue dots, and I also would recommend that you have some little liquid glue on hand as well. So with all that said, we'll get started on making our card. So you score your card and burnish it, and I've done that already, but you just take your bone folder and do that. That would be great. I am going to add my designer series paper to the outside. So the card is going to open in this fashion. So I'm going to glue this right here like that, and so I'm going to get my stamp and seal for some of the adhesive and my stamp and seal. Then I'm just going to put a couple of glue dots, not glue dots, but dabs of liquid glue for the other portion. So I'm going to grab my liquid glue, and I'm going to just put a little dabs here and there in order to adhere that die cut onto the card base. So again, you just kind of do little tiny dots wherever you feel you need to. And then I'm going to adhere this to the basic white card base, which I've already cut. So there's that. And I'm going to adhere this. So here's our card front. And I'm going to pop this off and put this on the card front. And I like my graph paper. I can line it up and try to get it somewhat straight on the card. There we go. And again, you can pull this down farther if you desired, if you wanted to, but that's where I wanted to have mine. Now the next thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do my stamping. I'm going to stamp the sentiment, and I'm also going to stamp the inside of the cards. I'm going to take off all my post-it notes here. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my evening evergreen, which is what I'm using for my sentiment. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to load it with ink. One thing I found I need to do when I'm doing this is my stickers, I don't always get them on straight. And so I can't keep straight sometimes which ones are straight and which ones aren't. So I usually take my paper and I try to line it up, and then just to see if it's straight. And I'm wondering if that actually is, I'm going to bring this closer to me for the moment. You see what I'm doing. And just to see if I can get a better idea of how to put that on. Okay, I need to bring it down on the right just a bit. So I'm going to bring my sentiment here, line it up on my graph paper, and try to get this positioned with trying to look through the camera. There we go. That's just dandy. So there's my sentiment. And as always, you've heard me speak about the simple chamois for cleaning the stamps. And so again, I like to clean them right after. So there's that all cleaned up. Now the other sentiment that I'm going to use is also from the best year. It's called Wishing You the Best Yet. So I flip this over and I see it's right there. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to add it to a block. And you could use a larger block actually if you wanted to. So Wishing You the Best Year Yet. And I'm going to take the inside of my card, and I'm just going to line that up on my grid paper so I have a sense of having it somewhat straight. Load. Tap, tap, tap. I'm always telling my classes that they should tap, because, and again, I'm just going to test out my stamp, and I'm going to test it again actually, and get a sense of how it's stamping. All right. And I think I've got that well loaded. So I'm going to put that here. And so that doesn't seem to be too far off. I'm going to put it right here. There we go. And again, I grab my simple chamois. That's nice and damp, stays nice and damp. And I clean up my stamp. And the other habit that I've actually gotten into is, don't always do it on camera, but I'd like to put my stamps away into the proper case. I've gone looking for stamps many times, and I've had more than one set out. And what I have found is that I have put it into the wrong one. So I try to do that right away. And I also try to do the same thing with my dies. So I'm going to set aside my blocks. I'm going to set aside this, and we're going to finish the card. So there's my stamp. My case is closed. I'm getting rid of all my little pieces of paper I have here. And I'm going to adhere this to the inside, and I'm going to use Stampin' Seal. There we go. And we're going to bring this in to the camera, open it up. And again, I try to line it up on my graph paper, to have a sense of where I'm placing it. I think that's pretty good. Now we're going to finish the front. So I will mention that I use dimensionals on the back of my sentiment. So I'm going to put the dimensionals on now. Probably only need a couple. So there's my dimensionals, and so that's going to go here. Then I'm going to adhere this. That is going to go around it. So I've just dry fit it first. So that's what I'm going to do. So I do want to put this on first. So I just want to get a sense of where I want it. And again, I'm going to take some glue. Now you could use an adhesive sheet when you go to cut it out, and that would actually give you a very good bond, and easy to do. You don't have to deal with glue. Now one trick I would mention as well, and I should have under this, is the silicone sheet, because the silicone sheet will protect your work surface as well as won't stick. So let's just do that. There's my silicone sheet, and when I'm working with a small item like this with glue, I'll hold it in place, and then I don't have to be so careful, because the glue is just going to go onto the adhesive sheet. I'm not going to mess up my work surface. So there we go. There's my decorative piece, and I'm going to bring this down. Again, I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to decide where I want it placed. I would say around there. And you're just going to pat it down. Then I'm going to take, now I've got glue in my hand, so give me a minute here to try to rub the glue off. Then I'm going to take my, I love this tool, the pick tool, and I'm going to take this off the backs, and then I'm going to make sure it's going in the right direction, and I'm going to set this right here. Happy birthday to you. And I am going to take my bow and decide which I want for the front, and I'm going to take the glue dots. The glue dots to me are a staple when it comes to card making. All right, card creation, what fun. Seems that I go to the farmer's market each Saturday, most Saturdays, and I find that people really like the birthday card. So I'm going to put that there because I want to be able to see the words. And I'll come back in a moment and get my scissors, and we will here are my scissors, and I'm going to cut the bow, or cut the ribbon rather, and about there. Very pretty ribbon. I love this ribbon. And I'm going to go this direction, trying to figure out how to hold the card. Here we go. So there's my bow, and I see I have oh no, that's just in behind. Okay, so now I have these little gems that I want to put on, and again I'm going to use my pick a tool, and going to go here, and we are going to go, I'm going to put one over here, and I'm going to kind of put it on the lighter color if I can, and I'm going to put one up here, there, oops, I had it flipped upside down. You love it when that's happened. I'm actually working around the camera, so that's why that happened. All right, let's try this again. I'll pick this up and put it right there. If we can get it there. Do you have these struggles when you're... There we go. There's the second one. And then the third one. Hopefully this one will go. I'll do a better job. I've actually sent for another tips for because I'm getting low on the putty, which is what you need. So I'm going to put one down here. And there you have it. Your card is completed. Happy birthday to you. I'm also going to show you using this die, second card that is just to give you the versatility of how you can dress the card up even more. The second card that I'd like to show you from this early release stamp set and dies, Eden's Garden and Eden's Dies, which is available November the 2nd for ordering, is a card that is dressed up even more. And this is the card that I'd like to show you. And this card is so pretty. And I have Dear Friend, How Are You on the inside. And on the outside, I have Hello There. So I'm going to show you how to put this card together. I'll talk about the pieces first. And this is the die cut that I used for cutting out this lovely gold banner. And I'm just going to set this aside into the die set. As well, I have a piece of gold foil that measures 5.5 by 7/8. I'm just going to set that aside. I also die cut from the Eden Dies 3 leaves, 2 in soft succulent and 1 in the evening evergreen, which I'm just going to set aside. Now this is the card base. So when I did the card base, there's obviously a couple of ways to do it. I cut it out in soft succulent cardstock. It measures 8.5 by 5.5. Then I score it at 4 1/4. Then I cut the length, which this would be the length, to 7.5. So what you end up with is this. So that is the card base. Now I wanted on the card base to be able to get this beautiful die cut over the foil. But the problem is when you put this die cut through, you don't want to put it through in this direction on your die cut machine because you might hurt the machine, and it doesn't like to go in that width. So what I wanted to do was to be able to cut it out in the length. So I cut a piece of cardstock for the front panel that is 5.5 by 4 1/4 before I die cut it. Then I die cut it. So this is where I would have put the die cut, and then run it through in this direction on the die cut machine. As well, I've got the Ever Eden Designer Series paper, and the Designer Series paper with the for the Ever Eden is only available coming November the 2nd while supplies last. It will not be in the new catalog, but the Eden's Garden and the Eden Dies will be in the new catalog. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So this piece of Designer Series paper is cut at 5 1/4 by 3 3/8, and I'm sure you can see that lovely gold foil effect on the front of that cardstock. As well, for the inside, I have cut a piece of basic white 5.5 by 3 3/8. And so by doing that, what I've done is it's going to run the full length of the card. I'll just show you again. So this is going to go in, and this is how it's going to go together with the gold foil and those leaves on the bottom. Now with as well a piece of basic white scrap for the sentiment, and I've already stamped the sentiment and cut it. So I use the Hello There, and that is from the Ever Eden set. And then you can either use your paper cutter or scissors and just trim it down. And then I took a dauber, a sponge dauber. I took my ink, I dipped it in the ink, and then I went around the edges like that. I just wanted to save a little bit of time by having that done beforehand. As well, there are going to be dimensionals put on the back of that sentiment. So let's get to work and let's get our card made. So the first thing that I'm going to do is remove these pieces of paper off of my directions, and go there. So this is the front of the card, and as I mentioned, this is going to go down here on the front, but the first thing I'm going to do is to actually do the inside. Now, if you're like me, I always have to remind myself what direction my card is going to be in. A few times I have to admit that I've had it running in the wrong direction, and I have to go back and do it. So I am using the soft succulent ink that matches up. The nice thing about Stampin' Up is our products all coordinate, which is awesome when it comes to trying to figure out which which cardstock to use and so forth. And as I mentioned in my last video, and in all my videos probably, I like to make sure that I've got that on straight before I go ahead and stamp it. I look like I might be able to be adding some more ink, so hopefully I'll have the ink I need for this. And I'm just going to line this up on my graph paper to see if I can get it somewhat straight. And then I'm going to stamp that. I'm just going to hold it there. Hopefully the ink will absorb how it needs to. There we go. That's just dandy. I'm going to close my stamp case. Always a good practice so it doesn't dry out. I'm going to take my simple chamois, and you can see that this is a practice that I do regularly because I want to keep my stamps in good shape. And another practice that I do regularly is I'll take my stamp and I'll put it back in my case just so that I can keep track of them. So I'm going to actually put this into the card base on the inside, and that is going to go right up to the seam and like that, okay? So I'm going to take my stamp and seal, and I'm going to run my stamp and seal on the back of my card, and I'm going to put this, make sure I have it going in the right direction and lined up. So I'm going to be putting that right there. Lining it up along the edge. There we go. All right, so that's that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take my piece of foil that I cut 5.5 by 7/8. Now I don't like using gold with I don't like using glue with my foil paper, because if it gets on the front, it is going to get marked. A class that I just did with this card, one gal had a mark on her foil, and as did I, but it was in my little kits I did up. And so I actually put the leaves over where the indentation had been. That's the nature of foil. It can be easily marked, but it is so gorgeous for our cards. So I'm going to line that up corner to corner and end to end. And I'm going to make sure I have it right up against the paper. There. And if I have to trim some off the end, I will. There we go. There we go. So there's our gold foil, and then I'm going to take my leaves on the inside. I'm going to use glue dots, and I'm going to adhere them down in this corner. So here are my glue dots. Again, to me, a fundamental tool for product for being able to do our cards. So I'm going to do one there. Oops, I don't think it came off. We're going to try that again. There we go. There's one. And then I'm going to do one up here. All right, so there's one. So that's just going to go there like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with this other leaf. There's one. And another. And that'll be the inside completed. So just put it on however you like. So now we're going to work on the outside. And I do need to burnish with the bone folder. So make sure I have a good fold there. And there's that. And this will get covered by the piece I'm putting on the front. And so this is going on like this. And we're going to put this together first. So I'm going to use my stamp and seal, and we're going to put this together. There we go. And you'd always want to make sure you watch which is down and which is up when you're doing this. If you have a pattern in the designer series paper. This one here is kind of an all over. Now, when I go to do this one, what I want to do is I'm actually going to put my glue on here, because I don't want any, this is going to hang over, and I don't want any of the glue showing at that point. So I'm just going to put to my tape, my stamp and seal here. Then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to adhere it here. There we go. So now when I fold it, see that beautiful gold? And I see I need to trim that edge, which I can do after. But isn't that gorgeous? So pretty, so pretty. So now we're going to do the front pieces. So this front piece is going to go here. So I'm going to do that next. And we're going to use my Stampin' Seal, which I should have some more. I'm getting near the end maybe. There we go. Here we go, and this is going on. And so again, I line up my card in the graph paper so I can try to keep it straight. I tend to want my sentiments more, not just right in the middle, especially when I have this beautiful design down here, and I am going to put a bow on it. So there is that piece. I've already have this one done. So I cut it narrow enough because I wanted the gold to show on both the top and the bottom. And I'm going to take this lovely tool that I love, and I'm going to take this off. Then I'm going to adhere this. There we go. And then I'm going to use glue dots with this again, with the leaf that I had cut out. And it looks like I need to poke out a spot. Oops. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing. Glue dot on top, the leaf, and then one towards the bottom. And if you needed to fold those over, if you didn't worried about them showing, you certainly could do that. So I'm going to put this kind of through here like that. Then I'm going to take another glue dot. I've got my bow in the Evening Evergreen, and decide which is the front and which is the back. And I'm going to adhere it, and then I'm going to cut the tails. There we go. And then this is going to go right here. And I don't want the hello covered up, so I'm just going to twist that. There we go. And I'm going to do my cutting. I guess I want to go that way. There's one. I need to get a pair of scissors just for ribbon. I use these for everything, and they're getting dull because of it. And this way. And you can see how dull my scissors are. So lesson in that, just a second please. A lesson that is to have a pair of scissors that are just for your ribbon. And I've only had the one pair of scissors, and as a result I have used them for everything, and they have gotten very dull. All right, so there's my card. Hello there. And when you open it up, you have, dear friend, how are you? So I'm having fun with this new set. I just absolutely love the designer series paper, which I know I showed you in my first video that I did. And I'll just give you another sneak peek. This was actually a designer series paper, the 4-card wonder I did, and I had the video actually is on my blog. And so this is the beautiful, so nice plain patterns, which is great for matching up with a design, more of the design patterns. Isn't that gorgeous? And then this one and this, and I'm going to be doing more cards. This is a almost an ombre effect of the greens on that card. Isn't that pretty? And it's got little gold specks through it, which I'm not sure you can see. Isn't that gorgeous? Gold, very pretty. That foil effect. So that's the designer series paper that's coming out again for While Supplies Last, available November the 2nd. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me, and if you ever have questions, I would be happy to answer them. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.